A cylindrical shaped jar has a radius of 4 centimeters and a height of 7 centimeters. How many ounces of water would it take to fill the jar? And then how many ounces would it take to fill half the jar? And really, if you can get part A, part B is easy, right? And we're going to express our answers round to the nearest ounce. So, you might first say, well, crappers, this is going to be difficult because the information is given in centimeters, and they're asking about ounces. So I got to go from centimeters to what? And you're scratching your head and you're a little bit confused. Well, let's start with a picture because I don't know about you, but I always feel better when I can see what I'm dealing with. So I've got a radius of 4 and a height of 7. And we're talking about filling this jar. And if we're filling it up, we're talking about volume. All right, so volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times the height. So we can find the volume because, well, pi is 3.14. My radius is 4, and my height is 7. So let's go ahead and say, well, let's find the volume. It's something that we can do, right? You always need a first step. Let what you have guide you as to what your first step should be. So if I have the radius and the height, I can find the volume. So I now know that the volume of this cylindrical shaped jar is 351.68 cubic centimeters. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next page. So I'm at 351.68 cubic centimeters, and my question asks about ounces. All right, so I look at my formula sheet, and I was like, how about that? 1 cubic centimeter equals 1 milliliter. Because realize that centimeters measure distance. Ounces measure liquid. Distance and liquid are not the same. So we somehow have to go from, centimeters being length. How do I change that to liquid? And now we have it. So this is why this works. I'm going to erase this as soon as I talk about it. But a cubic centimeter is like having a little box where every side is 1 centimeter. So think about a sugar cube. A little sugar cube is approximately a cubic centimeter, I would say. It's pretty close. Well, depending on your sugar cubes, I guess. But if you would stack a bunch of them inside, a jar, you could fill it up. So that's why one of those cubic centimeters, a little sugar cube, contains 1 milliliter of liquid if you would liquefy it. All right, so this is why it works. So we can say 1 cubic centimeter equals 1 milliliter. Well, the math behind this is fantastic, right? There's really nothing to do. You multiply by 1. So we really have 351.68 milliliters. Now we feel like we're getting somewhere. So we do have to jump across the pond. We got to go from metric to customary. And I'm in milliliters. So when I look at my volume, right, because we're looking at liquid, to be able to jump across the pond from metric to customary, I have to have liters. Milliliters doesn't get me there. So remember the whole metric piece. We've got the kilometers, HDA, my thing in the middle, DCM. So we're starting in milliliters, and I want to go to liters. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move my decimal left 3 places. So 351.68 milliliters equals 0.35168 liters. Okay, I hope you're following this. So now I have my volume in liters. 0.35168 liters. From liters, I can jump across the pond. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I like ones on the bottom. So 1 liter is 1.06 quarts. All right, so that right there gets rid of my liters, and I am now in quarts. But that's not my final answer, right? I want to get rid of those quarts, and 1 quart equals 2 pints, because ultimately my goal is to get to ounces. So I go quarts to pints. I'm going to keep going on my next line here, and we're going to multiply by 2 cups is 1 pint. So pints cancel out. And then the last one, 1 cup is 8 ounces. So you'll notice you have ones all over the bottom. So really the math behind this is 0.35168 multiplied by 1.06 to go to quarts, multiply 2 to go to pints, 2 to go to cups, and 8 to go to ounces. And we would find our final answer to be 11.9289 ounces. Remember, you want to keep this as exact as possible. Drag these decimals out as far as possible before you make your final answer. Now, we're now in ounces. The question said nearest ounce. So I'm rounding to the nearest ounce. 9 tells me to go up. So the answer to part A is 12 ounces. 12 ounces can fit in that jar. Well, that makes part B super easy, I hope, because part B says, well, how much would it take to fill half the jar? Well, if the whole jar is 12, then half of 12 would give you 6 ounces. So part B is simply 6 ounces.